our 2022 Indian Motorcycle Pursuit, which is basically the Challenger with a few tweaks to the engine, some upgrades to the suspension that they did from the 2020-21 models of the Challenger, 2020 being the first year that they came out. Learned that the chassis and the engine are identical. Got the trunk and the lowers on the front there, and I believe that the windshield is taller on the Pursuit, on my Pursuit, than it is on a Challenger. But for my wife and me, she's beautiful. For some folks, it may not be the look that they like on a motorcycle, but for us, it works, and it more than works. We're in love with the look of it, and that's why we changed our mind from buying a Roadmaster to a Pursuit. Beyond the fact that I preferred the water-cooled engine of the Power Plus 108 to the Thunderstroke, I wanted the water-cooled engine. And when I saw the Pursuit come out last year, it didn't take much talking the wife into dropping the order on this and canceling the order on the Roadmaster. With that said, you know, I've gotten a little bit down too much into the rabbit hole of who's better and blah blah blah, and defending Indian or defending Harley. That a lot of people have gotten into, but I guess it's better to see us Americans arguing about a motorcycle brand than it is arguing about all the other crap that people are arguing about in this country, which is a bunch of BS. I'd rather argue about a motorcycle brand than I would about the politics and how many genders there are and all that garbage that has all of a sudden taken a hold of this country, at least in the news and on the internet. Because when my wife and I travel, we don't see a whole lot of that stuff on the road. You mainly see it when you're sitting on your chair doing keyboard warrior shit at home off of your desk, or on your cell phone in the bathroom while you're taking a shit. That's where most of these keyboard warriors are. You know, but when you get out on the road and you meet your fellow Americans and your fellow human beings from planet Earth, which you'll find here on the road, people from all over the country and all over the world, in the on planet Earth, on this spaceship we call home, the people are still the same. We just want food on our table, money in our pocket, and roof over our head, clothes, shoes on our feet, and a way to get around and the money to do it with, and have a little bit of luxury stuff to do things that we want to do and not necessarily things that we have to do. And with Indian and Harley-Davidson, I have my reasons of why my wife and I decided to go with Indian. Their personal reasons of why Harley-Davidson turned me off to buying one of their touring bikes when her and I were ready to upgrade, and why Harley-Davidson drove us through the doors, because really the major salesman for Indian motorcycle for me as a Harley-Davidson rider and hog member for over 20 years was Indian and was Harley-Davidson. Harley-Davidson was the salesman that sold me this bike. It was not an Indian motorcycle salesman there in Albuquerque that sold me this bike. It was Harley-Davidson, 3 dealerships that were the 3 salesmen that convinced me to buy an Indian motorcycle, and that was a personal thing. Having said that, both motorcycle companies are great companies. They're both iconic brands, and you know, a lot of folks who religiously, zealously defend Harley-Davidson, they refuse to call this an Indian motorcycle, and that's their prerogative. I laugh. It's an Indian motorcycle owned by Polaris Company, which is a awesome American company, American-owned company that employs American workers, your fellow citizens. Just like Harley-Davidson is an amazing, iconic motorcycle company that employs American people, our brothers. You know, whether they having served or not, they're still our brothers and sisters, American citizens that both companies employ. And those of us that buy motorcycles from the 2 companies are putting money in the pockets so that our fellow citizens that work at those 2 companies can, you know, put bread on the table, raise their kids, house their kids, send them to college, and maybe be able to afford a toy like this, because that's really all it is. It's a toy. And so, you know, a few of us that were fortunate enough to have the money, and you know, those of us that survived the wars and came back home, fortunate enough to get our therapy doing something fun like this, you know, I'm happy to put money in the pockets of those American citizens, whether it be Harley-Davidson workers or Indian motorcycle workers that we're putting money in the pockets of. They're all Americans. So whenever you get into your defensive foxhole and want to shoot down the other company or whatever, just remember that, you know, it's your fellow Americans working at that other company. You know, I have nothing against a Harley-Davidson motorcycle. They're beautiful bikes. They're not quite up to the standards of what Indian Motorcycle is producing in terms of performance and the tech and all that. But then Indian Motorcycle is not quite up to the standards of Harley-Davidson with paint and a couple of things. You know, I went and looked at a Road Glide the other day, and as beautiful as all this stuff is here on my Indian Motorcycle, having owned 3 and still own 3 Harley-Davidson motorcycles, there is something a little bit, that little bit of extra that's in a Harley-Davidson. I mean, you go and you look at a Harley, and I look at my Indian, and all this is beautiful craftsmanship. The engine, all the plastics, the paint, and all that. But there's just something a little different, a little bit of ticks above with the Harley-Davidson. And I don't think that the Indian Motorcycle will ever match it. Maybe, I don't know. I looked at the new Sportsters, especially the 48, and I'll tell you that if I was Harley-Davidson, I'd be a little bit embarrassed, because that's not a Harley-Davidson spec bike. That's not their standards of fit and finish. It's got the performance, but when I looked at and you take a close look at the Sportster 48 that they're selling now, the smaller sporty, the water cooled with the Rev Max engine, that is not a Harley fit and finish bike. I would have been a little bit embarrassed to put Harley-Davidson in that motorcycle if you're talking about fit and finish, because that's what every Harley-Davidson guy is going to tell you, fit and finish. Not with their modern bikes, sorry to tell you guys. But I look at I could put a Scout next to a 48, or even the next to the bigger bike, the Sportster S, and the fit and finish in the Scout actually looks better than it does on either one of those two sporties. Having said that, great bikes, great freaking engine. If you haven't ridden a bike, whether it be the Pan America or the Sportsters with the Rev Max, you're missing out. You don't have to buy one, you go test ride one. If you're going to critique the bike, get on it, test ride it, look it, touch it, feel it. So with the modern bikes, somewhere Harley-Davidson dropped the ball on quality control. I think they rushed those bikes to market to keep up with the Scouts and the FTRs. Anyway, having said all that, if I was riding a Harley-Davidson Road Glide or a Harley-Davidson Sportster, I'd love the shit out of that bike. And you know, I'd try not to, but I probably would defend it to somebody that was being critical of my bike. But you know what? I guess you can come out here and be critical of my bike. This bike makes me happy. My FTR makes me happy. My 3 old Harleys make me happy, and my old Buell Firebolt makes me happy. So whatever makes you happy, 2 wheels, and you're safe out on the road and you survive. Or, you know, I tell my wife, if you pass away on 2 wheels, you died what you did. You die with doing what you loved. I told my wife, you know, I kind of like to go out like secondhand lions, her and me, like 85, 86-year-olds that whoever does a news story on us is going to say those 2 dumbass old people died trying to tour on a 900-pound bike. Well, you know what? We died with our boots on, and we died loving what we wanted to do, or we died doing what we loved. So with that, I think I'm at 9 minutes here, and I'm hoping that what I recorded on my Senna will come out. So let's do a quick kind of panorama here of the mountains of northern New Mexico. I haven't seen it this green since my wife and I moved back to New Mexico in 2011. So we had a great spring. We're having a really hot, dry summer, but all this is green now. Whereas up until this summer, it was all really dry. So that's great to see. And there's still a little bit of snow on the peaks of the mountains here in New Mexico, which is something that I haven't seen in New Mexico since I was a little kid. because this is where I was born and raised. We were gone for over 20 years when I was in the Army, but the 12 years we've been back now, almost 12 years, it's been very dry. So with that, I'm at 11 minutes of talking. I don't know if folks will make it through the whole thing, but with that, Espinoza out. Senna's battery died about 10 miles back, so I didn't get. I wanted to get some other footage of the roads up here in the north central part of New Mexico mountains, which is absolutely gorgeous riding. And I really wanted to get riding through the Abiquiu area with the iron colored desert down there, but my Senna ran out, so I'll finish off the video with a really quick this beautiful view here just past a place called Tres Piedras, about 20-30 miles back east, and headed towards a place called Tierra Maria. Then I'll head south towards the Espanola Valley back home. And just gorgeous up here. If you've never been to New Mexico, or if you've been through New Mexico, you probably think it's all like I-40 or I-25, although parts of I-25, once you get north of Santa Fe, north and east of Santa Fe, is really pretty until you get up into the Las Vegas area and the bad winds, but and the flatness of the plains out east. But anyway, there's so much in New Mexico in terms of riding up here in the north and south too. Albuquerque's got some beautiful riding past Cedar Crest. And if you like the desert, no man's land, it's beautiful down there. I was watching Shade Tree Surgeon, his ride from last year on his Shovelhead. Man, what a spectacular ride he had. Getting that old Harley in, it's falling apart. I'll tell you, $1 million Bogan beat the crap out of his bike. That was nothing compared to what Shade Tree Surgeon did with his Harley. His the Shovelhead he rode in last year. It was, he literally had the gas tank duct taped to the frame, a piece of wood carved to stick into the petcock so his gas or his oil wasn't leaking out. I think it's petcock or a hole there on the right side for his oil so that it wouldn't leak out. And he had baling wire holding other parts of the bike together. If you haven't ever watched Shade Tree Surgeon, or you haven't seen the video last year that he put out from his ride from the West Coast all the way to Florida on a Shovelhead, you got to watch that ride. It's a spectacular ride. Awesome video. Shade Tree Surgeon always puts out good stuff, but that is a really beautiful video that he put out. So just sad I can't record the rest of the ride, you know, clips of the ride on the roads up here in the north, but that's okay. The video is already going to be too long, and most people probably won't watch the whole thing, but at least my wife and I will have it for posterity. You know, the main reason I actually put videos on YouTube is so that my stuff is backed up and my wife and I can go back and look at memories, because it really doesn't matter. I mean, my videos are nothing special, nothing good like the vloggers that are out there, but you know, I'll look back someday and look back at this video and the other videos that I've made, including the really crappy first ones. As crappy as this one's going to be, my first videos were really bad. I guess it's kind of like a self-help diary stuff for me and other folks like me, and I can look back, you know, when I'm in my 60s and 70s, and even though I think I'm old now, I'll look back at me in my 50s and think, man, I thought I was old. I wish I was 50 years old. So, you know, now in my 50s, stuff hurts a little bit, but my wife and I have managed to get back in shape. I'm almost down to fighting shape. I'm doing almost as good as I was doing in college in the weight room. I hadn't expected to be lifting so heavy, and I've lost so much weight. You know, I ballooned up to 220 pounds of my small frame when I didn't really care about living after I got back from the war. But, you know, my wife saw me through that and helped me gain some perspective with her patience with me, and, you know, a really good VA therapist I had. I haven't had a drink in over 5 years, and you know, I'm loving life sober. I miss drinking, so being able to social drink, but unfortunately when I drink, I can't seem to control it anymore, and I can't control my thoughts like I can now when I'm sober. And it's great to wake up without a hangover. So, man, this is just beautiful. You know, Shade Tree Surgeon doesn't believe in God. Some of us do. But, you know, whether you believe in God or not, there's no denying the miracle of planet Earth, and our eyesight, you know, is able to enjoy. Those of us that can still see, I lost vision in one of my eyes from stuff from over there, but I can still see pretty good to enjoy this and ride a motorcycle. So with that, and this long video, Espinoza signing off. Espinoza out.